Wunderbar.
Wunderbar. We've got Andy, BlackKnightovEa, in blue, light blue, Goblins, versus Ahwehawe. Is he host, by the way, in this game? I think he is.
I'm host.
Your host. He's Angmar, top left mill. What are you going to go for? Goblin Cave?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. And does he go for the eco start?
Yeah, I can't remember if I start Lings or Goblins, but I remember basically I just wanted to harass him to fuck with Spiderling, so I think I do get to pit pretty quickly.
Yeah.
This is kind of an interesting matchup, and has actually we've talked about it a couple times in Discord recently, and I think that it's understood that when this matchup is played at a high level where both players are very good, as long as host is neutral, Goblin should always win. Mostly because Goblins beat Gundabads one-on-one and are cheaper. But Angmar obviously has lots of tricks and lots of things that are accessible. They can summon cavalry out of nowhere. Their one production building, they get a lot of mileage out of it. And so even though Goblin warriors outperform Gundabad warriors one-on-one, that does not necessarily make Goblin warriors overpowered. No. Because the Angmar player has access to much more unit diversity from one building than I do from mine, which forces me to make more structures. So I might have more troops cheaper, but I'm still limited by the amount of production buildings I have. For me, this matchup generally plays out very similarly. This is a unique early and mid game for me because I don't often play against a player that is of the caliber of Ahwehawe. Usually I'm just playing against Joey, and he's shit, so...
Yeah, SeaKnightofEa is pretty dog shit, so it's a lot easier to win. Or to lose gracefully. Yeah. It's kind of a standard open from both of you, but you're teching straight away into the spider pit. Are you going to utilize the Lings here to try and harass with those a fair bit?
I really want Lings. I have a hard time getting value out of Spider Riders, whereas the Spider Lings are super useful. This is my first major mistake in this game, was that I had the troops to sort of body block this.
Yeah, I noticed that.
He's never going to kill that if I can sort of thread the needle where my goblins get in between his unit and the tunnel. And so I either want to body block his ability to actually wail on my structure, or I need to clump on his Thrall Master. Those are sort of the two things that I have, but he keeps winning these like small trades just because he's paying more attention, and he's like having his Gundabad click onto my Goblin warriors first, and so he gets like one pro off. But if our units just sort of looked at each other and started hitting each other at the same time, the Goblin warriors would always win. And so yeah, the fact that I keep losing these small exchanges is more to the fact that I'm playing against a player who's more attentive than myself, which is one thing that is both frustrating and really, really sort of beautiful about this game.
Well, that's it. I think this is a perfect example, especially that first engagement where you lose one of your starting tunnels, although it's still here actually, as in the form of rubble. Was that 3 seconds earlier, and you saw that his Gundabads were going down there. You saw them cross. If you'd have just sent a unit down to literally body block to just get in the pathway of his Gundabad, this is still alive. And you're getting so much more value out of it. And it is, especially, like you're saying, Ahwehawe, a player of his caliber, currently doing very well. I think he's in the semi-finals now of the Rise of the Witch King World Championships. He's expected to go far. Probably will get into the finals, I think. But, who knows. He's definitely going to be up there as one of the top 10 players. Like, his attentiveness and his APM, he doesn't have more things available than you do, So he just is more aware of what's going on, and he clicks maybe a bit faster sometimes.
There might be a reason why he's more aware of what's going on, but I'll leave that to the armchair theorists.
Yeah. It helps so you can see what's going on. Yeah.
Joey, what do you think of this game so far?
So it's the Spiderlings are an interesting pickup because when you pick them up, that's when his attack landed. So it really delayed you from being able to utilize those in a well way. So it's like I think a third cave could have benefited more because you would have been able to expand to a fourth or fifth building faster, but
Right.
we could see these spiderlings possibly pay off by him needing to buy more pikes instead of the Gundabads.
Right. Another thing about it is that going back to just the Goblin Warrior versus Gundabad interaction, the Goblin Warriors perform really, really well one-on-one, and it's expected that, at least in this phase of the game, I'm going to have more troops on the board than he will. But because I do 2 cave to spider pit instead of a more traditional 3 or 4 cave, we're in this sort of weird spot that can be unique for this matchup, where he basically has more units on the board than I do. And so I have to punch up. Like, I have to get a lot of value out of these lings for this to pay off.
Yep.
You saw me kind of idling, like my lings were fighting, a battalion of pike there, and I lost half a battalion, and that's just because my brain is puny and I can't do all of the things that I want to do.
Well, there is this thing there about, you touched upon it. You need to get value out of your units because you don't have as many as maybe is expected from a spammy faction as Goblins. So you're in this kind of even-handed matchup in terms of you can't just overrun him. But what you've got, I think, as a player that a lot of players don't have is an understanding from looking at the board state, even from your limited view, which if we switch to it, you can't see onto his side of the field, obviously, you can only see around you, is you kind of have an understanding of where the game is and what you almost need to do, and whether you're winning or not. There's a game that me and Maximus played, and you were watching it, Andy, where it was that one where he said GG and then continued to build stuff. Where at the end of it, you said to me, you were ahead that whole game. And I was like, was I? I thought I was losing so badly. And you're like, no, you were very ahead. And I think that's a thing a lot of players don't have, is that ability to really understand where they are in terms of the board state. And I think that not only being able to do a lot more and getting value out of your units, but almost that affects the way you play and that affects your tempo. So if you're in the lead, you know what you need to do. But if your opponent can keep you guessing and never let you know just how close they are to death or just how badly they're doing, you can get away with a lot more. But this is a good attack from you. Spiderling's a lot of value out of them there, and this land's going to do you really well. He's now CP capped, of course, quite heavily at 500 CP, so he can't get anything out.
And that blob of troops I had on that very important level 2 mill there, I had them, I obviously attacked the mill, and then I microed elsewhere on the map, and through neglect, they sort of lost their clump and started fighting troops, where I think that if I had paid slightly more attention, I probably could have suicided those units and killed that mill, which would have been a really big dub. Yeah.
Big dub.
It is interesting though, because it definitely even though Ahwehawe had 3 production buildings up, he really didn't have much defenses at that base when you attacked like that, which is the weird surprise, because he doesn't have any wolf riders out. He's only building pikes and Gundabads and Axors, which are only 50 CP. So he has at least 10 troops on the map. It's like, where are they at where you can get almost 3 major resource building blows? So you definitely were able to get a lot of value out of that strike almost by pure timing.
But you see it again here from Ahwehawe. He knows now the tainted land is down, which is going to stay on the map. This is almost gone. It's a third of its health. He knows this is a target, and he knows you've got lots of fast spiderlings and these quick harassing units, but there is nothing here really to defend it. Certainly nothing that will stop it from being attacked, Right. I know he's CP capped at the moment.
Yeah. Here it comes.
But look, just like this, you're right in here, and what's he got?
Nothing.
Nothing. And you get the buff. This is going to go down here, which is great. And he's got Gundabad Summon now available. But that's kind of that's a priority target for you, and he knows it. And then he's chasing you around, and it's like if you'd have just kept one of these units here to body block,
if he just kept that pike right there that he bought and made, he would
look at my base too, because he does have full CP, as you can see. He's 530 of 550, and he's getting a lot done here. He has his war chant available, and so I'm losing important structures as well.
There goes the Gundabad summon. You've also lost one of your builders early on. Are you going to lose? Yeah, you might lose something else here. This is going to get a lot of value for you, though.
This is definitely a matchup where I feel like a third or fourth cave would have helped these transitions a lot more, because your money was unstable for losing, just like the first RB and another RB, like, Ahwehawe finding, just luckily, that resource building at the top for sure, but it's definitely like, if you had those goblins, like if you just had 1 or 2 units, small units in the extra places here and there, you would have been able to keep a little more pressure and kept the lucky losses, or the unlucky losses specifically, a little less. So it would have, if you were able to stabilize the game through that, you would have been able to hold more money and make these transitions better, because those half trolls would have been amazing, like 2 or 3 years earlier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a big problem too, obviously, is me losing the builder when I did.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate, because that slows me down. And this is a really tight game. Like, I can't afford to idle any of my production buildings.
Yep.
Once I have them. Like, I cranked out a lot of lings. I think I built probably 5 lings, and I've lost a few, and there's some that are level 2 still alive. But now I don't have the ability to make lings anymore because he's killed that structure. And I'm kind of stuck. I'm scrambling. He's done a really good job of killing my tunnels, even though I've done an okay job of killing his mills. Like, what's my CP compared to his? Because I've killed at least, like...
He's on 550 versus your 450.
Yeah, so I've killed at least, 5 or more mills over the course of this game, but I've lost at least as many tunnels,
Yeah.
He's just... And a big part of that is, obviously, if I had had a third cave and I had more bodies on the board, that would have helped me to sort of stem the tide and just body block while my lings did their thing, because the ling harass has been very successful for him.
Yep.
But he's also sort of, up until this point, he's definitely sort of punched up and won a lot of like small little exchanges that aren't necessarily in his favor, just for unit composition, just because of that attention, that attention to detail in him. Like here again, my troops are idling and he gets the first hit off here. This is a fight that I'm going to lose because there's more troops here, but I could have done better,
Yeah, it's when you come down to this kind of caliber of gameplay, when you're against players like Ahwehawe and players like, May Shadowfax or Matty's Mercs, like some of these really great players, you aren't losing because, they've got more things available at their disposal. They've just got more brain power and more focus on the game.
Big brain.
Big brain plays and small things like that.
Brain.
Well, you can learn. It's one of those things, it'll take 2 months to get good at and years to master, because it becomes these very small micro changes in your gameplay in certain situations, having units in the right place. That's what win and loses you the game. There's an element of luck, in inverted commas, to this whole thing. But the harder you work, the luckier you get,
Yeah. The other thing about the state of the game right now is that because I've killed all of his production buildings and he's kind of had to start over, there was a point there where he was all the way down to 100 CP.
Yeah.
That was all he had on the map, and that was all, and now I'm sort of... I have more troops than he does, and so he kind of has to figure out a way where he can win these battles at a bit of a disadvantage. Otherwise, I don't think it's unrealistic to say that if we both play perfectly from that point on, where I kill all 3 of his Hall of the King's Men and all of his starting mills, and I still have 3 of my 4 production buildings still alive, I don't think it's unrealistic to say if we both play perfectly, I should win from this point on.
I think you were winning for a fairly big portion of this game. You just gone for your Spider Ally summon, which I think is going to get you a lot of value here.
Ooh, I actually disagree on that. I don't think you need the Spider Link summon at all, unless you get.
I think he's going to get this though, right?
I don't think so. I think there's enough defensive units. The builder is a nice pickup, but I don't think you needed the summon lings to.
So what happens to me, and I've played this matchup of the games that I've played that are like I'm trying and my opponent is trying. In the last month, I would say a lot of them have actually been this matchup, Goblins versus Angmar, like when I did my WCS match up. against Rick, and I think there was another one where I was doing really well, and it was a very even board, but it just gets to this point where if the Angmar player goes along this tree, eventually I'm going to have to deal with the giant summon. And going and using the Lings and just dropping them down like that, I think that my options are to sort of like hold on to it and to go Worm specifically to counter the giant summon, or try and all in with a big goblin push with Worm on his fortress or something. Or I could have gone Scavenger, because I'm really suffering for money. Like at the end of this, he definitely out-earned me pretty significantly, which is hard in this matchup to do as Angmar, because I have access to, you know, if I had gone Azog and just Lumber Mills in general, you know.
Well, he's gone for Hwaldar, and he has got him level 3 now, so he's got the Brigandage ability. So I think this is the point now where you're going to see your economy start to lag behind slightly. Obviously, you've got the ability to get Lumber Mills here, but it's a lot easier to say that than it is in practice to not only get them up, but also keep them up. When and
I think I've lost 2 builders at this point as well.
And he's also gone for Untamed Allegiance on this here, and he's making some nice tips.
The Untamed Allegiance cave trolls in this matchup is really good. You see lots of Angmar players go for this and either just like mix one troll in with a stick, which is really hard for me to deal with as the goblins, or they'll just try and like keep that hidden and go for 3. So I think it's a little like it is a sign that I am doing some things successfully, that he feels the need to show that he has this, you know.
Well, this is, as we know, it's very effective against goblins. You see it a lot in the mirrors. It's this kind of cave troll with stick in hand. He loses the ability, doesn't he, to eat the orc. He doesn't have it, actually, does he? No, because he's not the Mordor troll.
The cave trolls don't. Yeah, the cave trolls pick up a goblin and throw it.
Yeah, which does a lot of damage to structures, actually. He deletes his troll and wolf den there, the Wildman summon, which is nice. But he gets 224 gold back. It's 500 cost, isn't it? So he gets 50% of it back. Don't think he got any use out of it. Didn't have any wolf riders or direwolves on the field, as far as I can see. But you're now ahead in CPs. His CP capped at 400, and you're 475. But you've only got 222 on the board here.
This is interesting, because I think I would rally call the Summon Wildman to take down his other production building. I think if you did that, you would have had a very close time killing that Hall of Mountain King.
Yeah, I would have thought that too. I think that I would certainly say that you're in the lead here.
He has Snowbind though. And I know that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's got Snowbind and Felwind available at the moment.
I remember thinking that he would for sure Snowbind the Troll and Wolf Den, and then I would have to use the Wildman somewhere else. But he just chooses to delete it, which I think is actually kind of a big dick move. But again, like that's a really good fell win there, because look at this chunky AoE.
Good damage. Spiderling's doing a good job here at zoning him out though, chasing him down. If you can keep these guys, there we go. Save the links.
There are, you know, and just pointing it out, like people will say, "Oh, I'm goblins against in a mirror, or I'm goblins against Mordor. The trolls are overpowered. They're too hard for me to deal with." And it's like, well, are you doing everything in your power to actually deal with it? Because like a cave troll can slaughter, you know, endless amounts of goblins if you only come at him from one angle. But even just with goblins, if I surround that cave troll, you know, I'm sort of willing to trade for goblins to zone that thing out of combat. You know, that's an okay trade for the goblin player.
And just go on.
But to Ahwehawe's credit, like he hasn't had any goddamn production buildings for a long time in this game, and he's getting a lot of value out of very, very little. You know, definitely outplaying me.
He's certainly punched up this whole game. I think now you're going to run into, well, you're going to see he's got this little collection of mills at the bottom, which I think if you clear out, and if you manage to take down this cave troll, maybe take down the one at the top, you know, you're forcing his Untamed Allegiance there to be used on, I think it's only the Troll and Wolf Den that it's effective with for Angmar. It increases the build time by 75%, I think. Which is quite a lot. Yeah, 70%. Really quickly in the chat, Gutty says, can you control the troll death animation based on stance?
No.
So the way it works, Gutty, my understanding, I actually had this conversation a few weeks ago with the developers, is that it's about damage done. So the troll will always do that death animation when it hits 0 HP. But if you imagine that the health bar goes from, you know, 100 to -10, if you hit it with a decent enough force that it's immediately deleted to 0 and kind of beyond 0, then it will just fall down. But if you just hit it normally, where it kind of gets to 0 without a big bit of damage, it will do that death animation. But you almost cancel that death animation by doing enough damage to it. That's what I was told by Admiral Excelsior. Because I said, can we make it consistent and just get rid of it? Like, if it isn't, you know, make it do one thing each time? And he said, well, not really.
That was close. He almost got that LotR.
I think you should have been chasing him here with these guys, potentially. Your God Warriors.
He still might get them.
He's not microed correctly. There's the Giant Summon, which is why he isn't microing correctly.
Ooh, yeah, if you had some units here, that is a Giant Summon that should be stopped.
Yeah.
Or if instead of going the Ling summon, right, if I had gone Scavenger, would I have had enough money to have Azog and Gorkil here? Or just Azog and an extra
Just
production?
Azog would be fine, or saving the Spiraling Summon for this scenario. Because the Spiraling Summon is actually pretty good against
He's only just used it as well. That's an unfortunate way, and this is a common way that you see Angmar win games, of course, is that from War Chant to Gundabad Summon to Giant Summon is a very strong PowerPoint path. I think you need to be aware as a player, and obviously you are, Andy, but you need to be aware as a player of, like we said, what Andy's good at is knowing what the state of the game is like. So knowing how many power points your opponent has, and having an idea of when you should expect Giant Summon. But
Yeah,
very unfortunate to lose
I remember
there.
when I remember when I got the Ling summon, I thought, like, basically I thought I was just getting fucked, and it was like, if I can just keep him CP capped and I can and inhibit the amount of troops he can have on the map, I feel like I'll be able to win this somehow, overwhelm him and come back.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, I was at a, you know, you've been praising me for understanding the state of the game that I'm in, but realistically, I was in a better position than I realized when I picked the Ling summon, and honestly, I could have played a little bit slower. Like, after I wiped out those 3 production buildings, I could have gone like Scavenger and made like a tower in every choke point. Like, that would have been good in this game, especially because he had such low amounts of units. It would have made it really hard for him to continue to just harass the fuck out of me like he did, you know? If I could sort of stem that tide and built up my own army to get to like 600, 700 CP, which would have been way easier for me to do than him since I have burrows.
Yeah.
You know? But instead, I just wanted to keep throwing as much shit at him as I possibly could, and in that chaos, you know, those endless amounts of like small micro situations where we're fighting each other, he just really outperformed me. So, but that was a game that I really, really enjoyed playing, even though I lost it.
Very, very well played game. I will say that immediately. Like, that was a very well played game from you, and I do think it goes a different way on a different day, you know?
Yeah, that was a fun one. Thanks for watching that. Well, what do you think, Joey? What do I need to do to improve?
I do think, like, obviously the fundamentals of macro and, you know, keeping things up, but I do think...
just be better. Yeah, just be better. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, get good is the main thing. Get good.
Really specifics, like, you can't just say be better, because there's needs to be specifics there, but I definitely do think any stage of the game, like a 3rd and 4th Goblin Cave would have done wonders for you. Like, just the extra 2 Goblins every 30 seconds would have really helped that gameplay. It would have helped you defend. It would have helped you maintain that pressure that you wanted instead of needing the wing summon. Like, because you reached the point 10, 12 minutes of the game where you didn't make any more production buildings. I do know that, you know, you took some resource building hits, but I do think, like, if you could just eke out that 350 gold, I don't think, you know, like 188 gold every minute for the 2 goblins is going to be so taxing where you can't put it up, because those 2 extra goblins actually add up for map pressure and defending.
Oh, yeah.
Quick question from the chat, by the way. How long until Goblin Structure Rubble rebuilds? Is it 60 seconds? 90 seconds?
I think it's 60 seconds, but I'm not for sure on that. It might be 2 minutes.